Om Gayatri Mahamantra. Om Bhurabhuvah Swaha Tatsavidurvarenyam Bhargo Devasya Dhimahi Dhiyo Yonah Prachodayat. By the mention of a Brahm Rishi today, two fundamental facts of the ancient Indian wisdom. They find their reiteration and they get more grounded into the seekers. Number one, whatever you accomplish as a tapa, I'm not finding another word in English for that. Yes, of course, austerity is one of them, but the ambit of tap in Hindi and Sanskrit is expansive, too expansive. I find it like a non translatable word. So, number one, that nothing accomplished as a tap goes into vain. It shall certainly fructify its impact today or in the life to come or the next life. Number two, the knowledge of the karma phal, karma gati, the action and the outcome, the karma in the light of karma, is something which is really esoteric and not easy to understand. It's quite complicated. Both the facts get grounded, deeply established, and for a seeker, this is a living example which comes forth in order to personify. Rather, we can say a life which personified the establishment of these two primary understanding drawn from ancient Indian wisdom. I'm making a mention about a Brahm Rishi, Gulab Maharaj, who had a very short span of life, not more than 34 years. Born in 1881, and he left this mortal plane in 1915. Father Gonduji Mohod and mother Akolabai. He was born in a village by the name Madhan in Amravati, district Amravati. At the age of 9 months, he was given a wrong medication, thereby, he lost his sight, became blind. Now, this was very unfortunate at that time. After that, at the age of 4, his mother left for heavenly abode. Again, infelicity, undoubtedly. Then he was brought up by his maternal grandmother Nanima for next 6 years, where he started unraveling the mystical part of his character to the outside world. He would enter into state of trance, rather he would slip and slide into the state of trance. Initially, people were not able to understand what happens to him. They probably gathered there is some sort of a problem with the child. But some learned ones were able to identify, no, this is different. He's going into a trance. So thereby, they advised everyone not to disturb the child. The child was quite different from everyone else. The great astonishment came on the day when he was sitting beside the community well, which was in the village, a common well, where ladies used to come to collect water, and he started naming each one by name. A blind child, unaware about whoever is passing by, how come that he is able to identify not only the appearance of the person, but also the name? Now, that was something which led to great astonishment, and thereafter he was taken very seriously. He was having a paranormal power of extreme kind. He would hold any book without opening even a page, since he could not read, he was blind. Just by holding the book, the knowledge of the book by itself shall transfer into him. And he could very well elucidate, inform people that what exactly is mentioned in the book. That was surprising. By the age of 10 years, he was well versed with the Vedic wisdom, Ved and Shastra. Now, the question was, Who taught him? When did he undergo all these studies? Yes, of course, some knowledge was shared with him. People used to read some books and he used to listen, and thereafter the memory was too sharp. It's like marking an inscription on his head. Anyway, but the limitations of the knowledge that he was born with, BORNE, born with, was not confined to what all he just heard. It was much, much, much beyond that. Now his life furthered into a very strange dimension. When he was just 19 years of age, he had within himself darshan of the most exalted master for all times, Sant Dhyaneshwar Maharaj, whom we also term as Parabrahma Param Parshad, Sant Dhyaneshwar Maharaj. You can term it as God. You can term it as Brahma. Param Parshad or Brahma or Brahma itself. Sant Dhyaneshwar manifested before him and gave him his darshan, initiated him, gave him his own mantra, and then he left. Thereafter, this boy called the artist to draw a sketch of the revered master, exalted master. By the understanding, he could inform him as a recollection of what exactly he had seen in the form of darshan. It is said that that was the first picture of Sant Dhyaneshwar for the world outside. That picture is still there at the Samadhi of Sant Dhyaneshwar in Alandi. Now, this is something big, something very big to transpire into the life of a human. Because those of you who are aware of Sant Dhyaneshwar will certainly take it to the highest esteem. And those who are not aware of Sant Dhyaneshwar Maharaj, then they may have been born into Sanatana Dharma Paddhati, but they are still oblivion about most of it. They must know about it. You can, if I have to make two stand beside Adiguru Shankaracharya, Sant Dhyaneshwar Maharaj, you cannot say who is more, who is less. I hold them at an equal platform. Something which was beyond, highly divine. Now, after that, he started writing books. He wrote around 133 books, more than 6,000 pages, 25,000 stanzas of poetry, 130 commentaries upon various books. He wrote upon Bhakti Yoga, he wrote upon Jnana Yoga, he wrote upon Sannyas Yoga, and the most important mention was that he wrote a book by the name Manas Ayurveda, which talks about the psychology part into the Ayurveda. Now, all this, when did he find the time to study? How did he get those books? How could he read them? No, it was nothing. As I told you, the two facts of ancient Indian wisdom get deeply grounded as personified into this life. One, that anything that you perform as tapa, okay, let me approximate by saying austerity, does not go into vain. It cherishes, it fructifies, not only in this life, but its impressions are furthered into the next life. And these were the impressions which were accumulated by his accomplishment as tapa in some past lives. Number one. Number two is that Karam Gati is Gehna. It is complicated, highly complicated. With a rational mind, you can easily not discriminate, discern, or to ascertain that why such an occurrence transpired in his life when he was such an exalted being, then why he became blind at the age of 9 months only. What was the reason behind that? It's very complicated. So these two fundamental facts get established. He got married to Manikarnika, daughter of Ganaji Bhuyar, and although the married life could not long more, because for the reason that he left the planet at the age of just 34 years, so not much could be done. He was a proponent of Madhur Advait. Madhura Advait is, Advait means where there is no divisible God, only oneness prevails, non dualism. And Madhura is the devotion which he was born with towards Keshav, extreme devotion. So, devotion towards Krishna, bhakti, and non dualism, when both exist, it was termed as Madhura Advaitacharya. Although that he was also named as Pradanya Chakshu, Madhura Advaitacharya Gulab Maharaj. Pradanya Chakshu, that divine insight which he was bearing, without looking people, he could understand who's standing affront. Without reading books, he could gather the contents of the book, and so on and so forth. So that gave him this title, which was probably given to him by the followers. He was blessed to have great followers who could accomplish a lot in their own lives as well. And that I don't have the names right now, but yes, during my small study, I could find certain names who had made good accomplishments in their life, and they were his keen followers. Although that he was not born in a Brahmin family, which he admitted, but yet there were many Brahmins who were his followers, and they were really sincere disciples who benefited a lot out of him. He had lot many occult powers, which though we do not have much mention how he demonstrated them, but yes, he was born with occult powers which probably came along with him during some past life. How and why cannot be said about that. Now, who was he? The story about his being a great master even in the previous life was unraveled by a gentleman who was posted into some government job at a place in Gujarat named by Zinzuada. After retirement, he came back to his native place near Amravati and settled there. One day, he visited the Ambaji temple around. And there, when he was into the temple, some voice from the background took his name and said, "Hello, mister," with the name, "come here." He saw and he was drawn back towards a blind saint sitting in the temple. He approached him and offered his pranam and inquired, "Yes, Maharaj, what can I do for you?" He said, "Nothing. You've forgotten me. Not you alone, but others also have come with me in this life." And then before him, he revealed that I am none else but Swami Becharananda Maharaj, who was there in Zinzwada at Gujarat and had undergone great and severe austerity of remaining into forest for several years, just depending upon lemon juice for several years, and had performed a lot of penance and austerity. So I am none else, but I am that one. And the gentleman did not reveal this to all the same time, but later on, when Gulab Rao Maharaj had departed this mortal plane, then he revealed before everyone that this great soul was none else but Swami Becharanand Maharaj. But not only Becharanand Maharaj, what was he prior to that? That is also not known, because the knowledge of Manas Ayurveda and Veda Shastra, etc., all coming from where? And probably it was not the end of it. If at all he manifested again, then in what form? Well, we do not have any idea about that. It's just a mention that came through while picking up a few inputs about him. Although I could not access any of his book or his compilation, yet, as it is mentioned, certainly certain esoteric facts must have been unraveled by him. And it's also mentioned that there were certain facts which were not revealed by the learned ones about the ancient Indian wisdom so far. It was he who brought them to the surface. We will certainly find privilege one day to go through them and benefit for our own inner growth. Having mentioned about him, all little I could make a mention about, I feel highly blessed. ओम ही सत्य है, ओम ही सत्य है, ओम ही सत्य है.